Hi and welcome. In this video I will be talking a little bit about routing, and this is going to be in reference to the MCSE Guide to Managing a Microsoft Windows Server 2003 Network Enhanced book. It's actually chapter 12. So first of all, what I'd like to do is a presentation on what routing is, what it covers, what some of the reasons to route are. Programs I'm going to be using are Free Screen Recorder. I was using Cam Studio for a while but had some sound issues, as well as VMware, and I'll get that started so you can see what it is. While I'm talking about that and getting that going, I'll open a presentation that I did here on routing. The overview, what is this? Let me pull that out of the way for a minute. Quick overview here. What I'm going to cover is what routing is, the reasons to route, some of the main reasons to route are it decreases network bandwidth and connectivity charges, as well as allows for connectivity to the internet for small and medium-sized organizations. What a lot of people fail to realize is that Windows Server 2003 can be set up for a router. This would most likely be your small office top networks. Larger organizations are going to use the actual physical devices. Basically what a router is a network device that moves packets from one network to another. It can be a computer or network device with more than one network interface. Each network interface will be connected to a different TCP/IP network, and the router will forward packets back and forth between the networks. It reduces the number of packet collisions on a physical network media, since computers typically communicate more frequently with computers on the same TCP/IP network. In order for it to be a router, the server has to be connected to at least two networks. So it can't be on just one network. You have to have two separate networks there. Because if it's on the same network, your packets, there's nowhere for your packets to go from one point to another. Network interface, the server is connected to each network and has an IP address on the network. And a router is basically responsible for making intelligent decisions about how to move packets from one network to another in the fastest way possible. And if you recall, a route is basically the path which one packet takes to get from one network to another network. And that's measured in what's called hops. Some of the different protocols that can be routed are TCP/IP, IPXX, SPX, and AppleTalk. And then a couple other benefits is basically the cost. Because if you already have a server, the only thing that you need to do is add a network card and configure Windows, and bam, it's a router. It's really useful if the routing requirements for your organizations are simple and a server has unused capacity. It's not recommended to use servers that are already, really used up and running low on resources and space. So it's a good idea to use a server that, that's really has a lot of room and you can put some information on. And then again, like I said previously, large organizations are more likely to require the advanced features that a hardware-based router provides. So in this case, what I'm going to do later on is set up Windows 2003 for a router. And bring up some routing tables and go that route. And again, that's for your small business and your home office setting. A couple things to keep in mind when connecting to the net. Other advanced features such as proxy for network requests are most oftentimes required. Microsoft has a product called Internet Security and Acceleration Server that provides proxy services. I haven't done too much research on that. But I imagine that would be a really resourceful and useful program to use if need be. Routing is part of RRAS and can be configured using the same wizard that is used to configure dial-up and VPN servers. If RRAS are configured on a server such as a VPN server, then routing can be configured an additional service without losing the existing configuration. And then the demonstration that I'm going to do later, this kind of covers what I'm talking about, is routing tables. And what a routing table is basically it keeps track of all the different available networks someone would have to choose from. List the networks known to the router. If the router wishes to communicate with computers on a particular network, it must state a route to that network from the routing table. Routes are stored in Windows Registry and loaded into the memory at system startup, so routes can be retrieved quickly. I'm not going to go too much into detail on this because I'm running short on time, but it's basically just saying what I'm going to show you later on is the demonstration. Some more interesting facts. Not going to get too into detail there. There's two types of routing that you're mainly going to be using is static routing and dynamic. Static is usually the default. Only networks of which router is aware are the ones that is attached to a network card. It's generally used when security is required and you know exactly what is in each routing table and how to control the packets. The downfall to this is each time a network is added, the routing table of each server must be changed if you're using static routing. And each time a change is made, there's a chance of errors being created, even if it's only for a short amount of time. Dynamic routing is used in most environments. The routers talk to each other to build their routing tables. So basically what happens is the routers are communicating back and forth saying, hey, you know, this is my network. The other router says, okay, well, I'm on this network, and then they build a list of networks on the table. And then some of the protocols, I'm not going to get too into detail on this, but some of the protocols used for routing is RIP, OSDF, and then I talk a little bit on this presentation about packet filters and what they do. Again, I won't get into too much detail on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how to go about opening those the routing table. And again, I'm using a program called VMware Workstation. It's a virtual environment that allows me to install operating systems without taking up hard drive space on my actual physical computer. So I'll open that up. Let's see. I'm not sure where my operating systems went. Give me just a second here. Let's see, there's my sidebar. And then I'll go ahead and start Windows Server 2003. So I'll power it on. And I'll wait for it to load. And there's actually two ways of doing this. I'll go ahead and cover both ways. One's through using the remote and I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it's remote and there's a snap-on utility, or you can use the command prompt. So I'll cover both of those as soon as I get this loaded here. Well, while that's loading, let me what I'll do is I'll demonstrate the command prompt on my Vista. I'll type in CMD. And the command that we can use is netstat space and then -r. This will bring up the routing table. And the active routes here. Oh, that's the wrong one. This is version 6. I need version 4. And one thing to remember is this address here, the 127.0.0.0. I believe it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's your loopback address. So you can go anywhere on this network and ping that to make sure your network's in working order and stuff. It's got the net mask, the gateway, the interface, and then metric is measured in what's called cost, and that's based on, I believe it's dynamic routing. One of those, I think it's static is based on hops and dynamic is based on cost. It could be the other way around. If so, I apologize. But the cost is usually, you know, you want the lowest number possible there. And then there's some other pretty useful commands that you can do. For instance, if you want to add a mask, you can type in route add, 8.0.0.0 for the subnet mask. We can go 255.0.0.0. And then the IP address can be 192.168.1.88. Let's try that. And see, now we have that added. And if I bring that up, again, routing table, and look at the version 6 routing table, there's the newly added network right there. And then we can remove that by using the what is it? I think it's route delete. Let's try that. Route delete 8.0.0.0. Let's try that. And then if we go back and look at it one more time, it should have gotten rid of it. Yeah, it got rid of it. Some other ones right there that you can use are route print and then the number followed by a star. So for instance, if you want to view all the routing tables for the 192 address, you can type in route print 192 and then a star, and it'll only bring up IP addresses with that one. But there's quite a few cool commands there. The other way we can do this is inside of Windows Server 2003, and I'll go ahead and show you how that. Whoops, didn't mean to do that there. We can click on start. Wait, let me close this. Administrative tools, routing and remote access. And when you first do this, your server's not going to be expanded, so you have to expand your server box. Go down to, I believe it's IP routing, let's try that, yeah, and then static routes. Right click static routes and go to show IP routing table. And again, this is the same basic principle that we did using the command prompt. I prefer the command prompt method, but maybe there are some benefits of using this method here. Again, this was my presentation on routing and how to bring up the routing tables. I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned something from it. Thanks.